What's going on? This is Altone, and today I actually just want to show you the different screens. And this is the reason why I love this radio so much. And I think even though for the size and for what you're getting, this is the best radio for beginners because it's going to grow with you throughout your career. You can do competitions with this radio. You can do so much. When you first start up the radio, of course, it's going to come to whatever the last model was that you were flying. Well, since we're on that model page, let's take a look and I'll show you what each one of these different screens are and things that you can get to and make adjustments to, which I think is, again, fantastic. So if you go on the model page, you have a bunch, and each one of these are pages across the top. That little airplane means that you're in a model page. You got some information here, your model name, which you can change from this screen and edit, and you can actually make changes to all of the different things here. Set up your timers, pre-flight checks, all of that. This next page is a heli setup. And that heli setup is, of course, if you're flying helicopters. There's a bunch of different settings in here that affect the way a helicopter operates. I am not going to be using this, so I'm most likely going to turn that page off in the future. The next one is flight modes, and here you can set up, it's actually set to 8 different flight modes. Everything is zeroed out currently, but you can actually go in and edit the flight modes and add the information that you want it to for that particular mode in order for it to be able to do what you want it to do. We do have 6 switches across the top of the radio here, and some people actually use those switches for their flight modes, and I'm thinking that's probably what I'm going to do here in the future. Then you have your inputs. The inputs actually tell the radio for each one of the switches or the control sticks. You see I have aileron, elevator, throttle, and rudder already set up. And then you can go down and add more inputs. And that's where you're going to add the different things that you want these different switches, let's zoom out just a little bit, these different switches to actually do. That's going to tell the radio, I want this switch to perform what function. Here's your mixes. You can combine different switches and combine different movements here in the mixes tab and of course all of this is for that specific model. So the great thing about it is once you have a model set up, I like the way I have my FT tutor set up, so if I decide I want to, I can always duplicate everything in that model, and it's going to duplicate all of my settings across the board for that specific model so that I know that when I make my new model, I can go in and make tweaks to it, but it's essentially going to perform the same. And that's one thing I love about this radio. And of course, the screen allows you to see so much that's going on, where a black and white screen, they don't give you the same visual experience that the color screens do. And that's why I love this thing. Absolutely love it. Then you have outputs. Again, your outputs will give information as to what's leaving the radio. You set your switches up to do the different things that you want to, then you put the mixes in to add functions to the actual switch. It's like if you want to do a coordinated turn, you bank, but you want it to also add a little bit of rudder in that coordinated turn to make it a coordinated turn. You will be able to do that in the mixes, and then when you come here to outputs and you push your ailerons to the right, you're going to be able to see the movement in the rudder to know that it's doing what it is that you want it to do. And I think that's fantastic. So you have curves here as well. That one I'm going to have to dig into a little bit and get a better understanding of myself. Let's go ahead and zoom back in so you can see a little bit better. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get into curves. Again, curves is not something I believe as a beginner that you're gonna worry about. You can just leave everything the way that it is. But after you get out and you fly, you get some experience flying a particular aircraft. I suggest taking that one aircraft that you've learned to fly well and then going in and playing around with some of the settings to see what types of differences. Because if you can recover that aircraft, if something goes a little haywire, you have your basher that you go out and fly and test and do different things with. That's how you're going to learn. And I'm going to build a FT tutor specifically for that purpose. Now the next one is, and of course I'm just using this, but of course you can use your page button, your global variables. Here you can change different things as far as your global settings. Again, something else I'm gonna have to dig into a little bit more. I have done some global settings on my previous radio, but this is something I'm gonna have to brush up on and get a better understanding of myself. Your logical switches. Logical switches, for example, I have different things set up. So I have buzzers set up, and I have, again, different flight modes and all that kind of stuff. If you want the radio to announce to you what changes you've made by hitting a switch, that's one place that you're going to add that into, is in logical switches. If this switch is moved in this direction, then I want, or is placed in this position, I want this sound to be played. You may also want an announcement for a timer announcement or things like that. Or you may want to set one of your extra trim switches up to reset timers and things of that nature. You can use logical switches to do that. There's so many different things you can do. Just want to give you a couple of quick examples of different things that you could use that for. Then special functions, again, another one that I'm gonna have to get into. I have set up special functions on some of my other drones and quads that I've flown on my other radio, but I'm gonna have to dig into that. But essentially, like I said, anything that you want to be familiar with, and again, special functions is one that you're going to start to use as you get a little bit better. As a beginner, you're not going to necessarily need to use special functions. And then, of course, your last one is telemetry. Telemetry as a beginner, again, is not one that you have to use, but you're going to start to learn as you set up models in your radio how to set it up to pick up your sensors, and then how you want those sensors displayed on the radio. So that is pretty much the model screens. Thanks again for stopping by and checking this out with me. Have an absolutely fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon.